So the first question typically people ask, tell me about yourself. So how should somebody answer this and what they should not include in the answer?
When we are telling about ourselves, that is one of the open-ended questions where we can grab the opportunity to tell all our strength. Don't talk much about your weakness, talk about your brand statement, confidently talk about that. And then what are your strengths? What are you thriving for?
Can I ask you to give one sample answer for each of the questions? Which has been your most challenging project and why?
Coming to the question that what causes outliers, there are multiple reasons for that.
How do you kind of identify missing data and how do you correct it?
So there is another technique which is being currently used. It's called as data imputation using regression method.
Tell me, when you're doing data analysis, any scenario where your analysis led to a significant change in the business strategy or some business decisions. So now that brings us to the next segment, which is scenario-based questions. Imagine you're asked to investigate why user engagement on a mobile app has dropped by 10% in the last month. What would be your first steps and what metrics would you investigate and what are some potential hypotheses which you'll apply?
The most creative way to segmentize the customer is based upon their behavioral attitude. The way they are carrying out their lives.
You are given a data set of customer purchase history for an e-commerce company. The goal is to improve the customer retention. So what kind of analysis would you perform and what kind of insights will you?
What do you think, the source of the Indian Railways, what do you think 1/3 of the income is generated from?
This is what data talks about, which many people don't know, but these insights creates a lot of surprise
Surprise discoveries.
Yes.
How do you balance short-term business goals with the long-term strategic goals?
You can use a tool called as efforts to results ratio.
First, understand whether this is the domain you want to get into. This is the data. Do you thrive with the data? Because that is where it will be every time 100% of your job will be into digging in the data and getting, that's what I was saying, chaos to make sense out of it.
Good morning, good evening. Welcome to a brand new episode of FutureForward, a podcast series by Techcanvass on artificial intelligence, business analysis, and data analytics. Every week, we invite an industry expert to have an in-depth discussion on a subject. In this episode, we have not one, but two guests. And I'm going to put them on hot seat and ask them how to answer data analyst interview questions. So, today's guest, Smriti Mishra and Vinayak MK. Let me introduce them and then we'll talk to them. So Smriti has over 15 years of experience in the tech and analytics space. For the past 9 years, she has been working with Dell Technologies in the data and analytics domain, leading initiatives focused on product strategy, stakeholder alignment, and digital transformation. She is a certified data science product manager from IIM Kozhikode with an academic background in computer science engineering and a dual master's in HR and IT. She is passionate about continuous learning and staying ahead of the rapid changes in our industry. Next is Vinayak, a seasoned techno-functional professional with over 19 years of experience. He is an expert in managing the intersection of data, business, and technology. He is certified in machine learning, generative AI, and business data analytics. He leverages his dual expertise in product management and advanced data analysis to architect and deliver complex, large-scale data solutions on modern cloud platforms like Azure and Databricks to solve complex problems in retail, loyalty, and payments domain. His LinkedIn profile says he's a self-actualized data analyst. And I'm going to definitely ask him, what does it mean? So welcome to the show, Smriti and Vinayak. So I have just talked about you a little bit. If you can have a little more about your profile, when did you start your career and how did it forward?
Sure, definitely. And first of all, thank you, Abhishek, for having me here in this podcast. So to introduce myself, I am Smriti and a data and product leader. I have been having experience of 1.5 decades of experience in majorly in data and analytics domain. I've worked in multiple domains like sales, services, supply chain, and mostly under data part. I'm always keen to learn new things, and that is how I land up for data scientist certification from IIM Kozhikode. So I'm here, and I generally, as part of my role, what I do is I ensure to make sense from data to insights, data to decision making. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Smriti. Yeah, coming to Vinayak. So tell us more about yourself, but also talk about self-actualized data analyst.
So my role into the technology is, it's nothing less than an evolution. So I started my career as a functional tester in one of the India's leading ERP application, and from there onwards, I moved into the product management. In fact, the R&D department of that company organization called as Tally, and there I was handling. I was working as a functional manager, or you can say module owner, for some of the complex modules like banking, payments, multi currencies. And from during that period, I developed the interest and tendency towards data, how a particular data point is being visualized as a different level and at different reports. So different shades, I can say. And from there onwards, I worked on. I moved to a couple of other companies wherein I was managing the data migration projects, and I started working as a full-fledged data analyst in when I joined Shell, and this is where I started even taking the certifications and knowledge with respect to data analytics. I cleared couple of industry recognized certifications like IIBA, CBDA. Then I obtained some of the technical certifications from like data science from IBM, and also a couple of other neutral certifications like the PL300, which is into data analyst in Power BI, and currently some of the certification in generative AI. And coming to my LinkedIn profile, self-actualized data analyst means something, I mean, like somewhere you have not become a data analyst incidentally, but something where you have become after thriving for it. You are putting a lot of efforts to become, to come to that position or to become that. So it's not just like coincident that, one person has become a data analyst.
Great. So good to know about both of you. Before we get into the interview section, one more question. What do you find in the data analytics career and in your career? What is the most exciting thing about data analytics?
So from my understanding perspective, like from data analytics, it's away from assumption. You are cutting all the assumption out, and you are getting the data in. So as part of my role in product management, generally business comes up with lot many assumptions, lot many biasness. So when I bring from data analyst perspective the data and show that this is what is currently data talking about, this is the pattern where we are seeing the historical data, which cuts all the assumption, all the biasness, and get your truth in front. So that is what is exciting, which I feel like, and I always ensure that we get data as a lot of information, and from that chaos you need to make sense of it, out of it, and that is really exciting for me. Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Vinayak?
Well, the most interesting aspect of being a data analyst is wearing the role of a detective and following the clues, trying to decide which feature to give next, or you come across some issues which says that you don't the values are not batching when you see it on a monthly basis compared against a quarterly basis. So you have to go through each and every clue at data point. It can be either at the processor wise or at the technical wise, technology wise, and so it's quite challenging, and you have to be always curious, open minded, and plus a lot of learnings are present. So that's what drives me for becoming a data analyst.
Okay. So now let's come to the main topic of this episode. So I'm going to ask questions from each one of you, and you can basically the idea is that you can tell how to answer this question with your comments also. Okay. So the first section is going to be icebreaker, the typical interview pattern. So let me start with you. So the first question typically people ask, tell me about yourself. Okay. So how should somebody answer this and what they should not include in the answer?
Okay, tell me about yourself is a very important question as per me. This is where the tone is set for the interview. You have to sound, first of all, you have to sound quite confident, okay, and clear. Your body language has to be perfect. And usually the best way to start answering is structure it properly. Start from the basic level. Start with your educational background and some of the projects what you did during your graduation, how it was, why did you do it, and how it impacted uh, your personal growth. Then you start with your job experiences one by one. Uh, and then you can also talk couple of challenges what you faced, how you overcome it, how it delivered value to the business, and then also talk about some of the new learnings or certifications which you did during those course of time and how it helped business and how it helped you also. And then finally end it with some casual talks by talking about your family or what other area of interest do you have which keeps you busy and lively apart from your work.
I would like to add on here one thing. So basically, when we are telling about ourselves, that is one of the open-ended question where we can grab the opportunity to tell all our strength, and then don't talk much about your weakness. Talk about your brand statement. Confidently talk about that, and then what are your strengths? What are you thriving for? And from what current opportunity for which you are giving interview on, and how you are the best fit for that. So that is the time you can give elaborate that particular question. And one more thing which I have read somewhere, that initial 7 seconds or 9 seconds, those are the ones where your subconscious interviewer's subconscious mind makes some decision. So ensure at that time you are coming out very bold and very confident. So that will help.
So can I ask you to give one sample answer for each of the questions, if it is possible?
Say yes, you can start with your saying educational background, stating that yes, after the graduation, I did my master's in finance from a very famous university called as VTU, and I did a project with respect to the credit rating analysis. And this was done for a major nationalized bank, and we found out that they are using a traditional method to analyze the credit. And I suggest a statistical based credit analysis techniques. With that, the rate of NPAs has come down to drastically 10%. Okay, and then you can start with your companies. You can say the first company which I joined was into the role of tester, and this is where I learned how to validate or how to check the application from the user end. And then you also face a lot of you also learned a lot of challenges while developing the product, so you have the knowledge or experience from both the end, both are from the both as an end user as well as the person who is creating it. And then slowly saying that once you have gained good amount of knowledge and experience in a tester, how did you elevated it, and how did you grow within the organization, how it was recognized. Then you can say that after a span of certain years you move to another company, and then what are the new things you have learned, and followed by certain, like as I told you, some of the certifications which you did. And then and casually, like you have a family, and whether you are married and or unmarried, and how many kids you have, and what drives you crazy, like somebody like I drive every weekend, I go for a solo trip. Just end it casually and don't sound too much nervous, and also don't, as Smriti told, don't straight away say your weaknesses as weakness. Just tell it in a manner that the weaknesses should sound as a strength when it is overcome. For example, I usually tell that my weakness is I find it bit difficult to delegate things to others. So this is a weakness, and in order to overcome it, I slowly learned the art of delegation. I slowly built the work of trusting, and this has led me to do my own things in a proper manner and delegating the regular works to other people. Something like that.
Okay. You want to add something here?
No, I think he has covered pretty much everything. Yeah.
So next question is for you. How is your typical day as a data analyst? How should you answer? And what should you include in that answer?
Okay, so from a product manager lens perspective, as a data analyst, because my team works multiple team members are there who are working as a data analyst. So the start of the day, it starts from a stand-up call where we discuss about what all has been accomplished as part of yesterday, what is gonna worked upon today, and then if there is any challenges, that is what we talk about. After that, data analyst has to answer a lot of questions regarding the business. Like business comes up with day-to-day questions, like why this particular quarter's data is less, why the status of this particular case is not correct. So all those small questions, answers, that is what data analysts need to deep dive and understand why data is not showing correct information. So that is another thing they'll have to continue working on. And then there are few requests which comes from data scientists perspective. Like they, while making the model, they want some data insights where they want certain bar charts or graphs or some demographic related information. That is what they need to help data scientists. So these are 2 3 things which they need to work on day to day basis and to help model and data analytics to come up and make sense out of it.
Okay. So now next question is, which is again a typical question, which has been your most challenging project and why? And what was the challenge and how did you address it?
Okay, so there were a couple of challenging projects which I faced, and one of them was like, in one of the project, we have to identify the impact of certain programs being launched. Now, in order to do that, you have to quarantine certain section of the customers compared to the other customers who will be receiving those programs. Okay, now while quarantining it, it leads to the loss of the customers because though they might have signed up, they may not end up receiving those programs, and they might, as a company, it's a loss because we are losing those many of customers being or like turning it to be a quite potential customers. So during that perspective, what we did is we took those customers who have never enrolled for the program. We identified the natural behavior of those customers, okay, which matches the behavior of the customers who have enrolled for the programs. And all this was done by taking the unsupervised learning aspect of the machine learning part, wherein we had to do the clustering of the customers using elbow technique. We had to find out the optimum number of clusters, and then using various statistical methods like p-test and then f-test, we have to identify the variance and the mean which is acceptable, and then create find out what is the confidence, is it less than 95 or more than 95, and then once everything matches, then consider those customers and then see how they are behaving against those customers who have got the offers or who have got the programs and have not yet been utilizing it. So it's like measuring the impact of the program without affecting the customer's behavior. So that was quite challenging as it included both the machine learning aspect, statistics aspect, the business point of view, as well as extracting the data from the various sources and then sampling. So yes, that was a quite challenging one.
So now the next section is going to be about more basic and conceptual questions. So the first question is about the data analysis process which you follow in your organization.
Okay, so we generally follow the cross-industry standard practice, which we call it as CRISP, cross-industry standard practice, CRISP DM. So cross-industry standard practice for data mining. So that has around like 5 steps to which we follow. So first step is related to understand the business problems. So first of all, understand what exactly the problem business is bringing in, and why they want the particular, why that is a problem, and what is the pain area they are going through with. What will be the impact with that particular fix, how important it is. Then second, understand the data. So data understanding, what all data we have to support this particular problem to fix that. Do we have data standardized one, which is coming from data warehouse, all structured, or are those data very unstructured data? Then process the data. That is third step. So process the data and identify what all missing values are there. If there is outliers are there, if missing values are there, then based on imputation method, fix those or ignore those based on how critical that data is. And so pre-processing of all these data, bring it in normalized form if it is not, and understand what all things you need to fix the problem of business, and then tackle it. So you should have normalized data. It should be structured and it should be recurringly coming from the source. So those are the things that you need to understand and process it for model. So you need to bring insights of the data, that like what all patterns we are seeing on that data. If a particular geography, there are some issues we are seeing, or is there any region wise issue, or are we getting all the data from all different perspectives. So that is what we understand and process the data, then create the model. So for model perspective, there like it can be based on what outcome we need to get out of model. Is it only yes or no, win or loss of the deal, or is it something which is time series related information or regression related? So you need to decide based on that. That if it is yes and no, then go for classification model, and if it is time series, then go for time series or regression ones, so or statistical ones. So those are the things we will have to decide as part of step number 4. Then final step is, once your model is ready and your data is all flowing in the model, you need to start getting feedback from your users. So that is the feedback loop, where business need to keep helping us based on the accuracy. If accuracy is high, we generally tell them that this is what is the accuracy and this is what is the data coming in. So then based on that, if they come up with the feedback that no, this is not making sense, or this information we don't have, we'll have to keep taking the feedback and keep improving on the model. Also, we need to ensure that the model is retrained on like on regular basis, so that it's like data drift should not happen. So those are the 5 steps which we follow for, which is crisp DM for our data mining and analytics.
Okay. Just in case, if let's say somebody is working in a company where they're not having a standardized process, right? How should then they answer this question?
Okay. If it is not standardized, then the process gets more rigorous, because if data is not coming in a structured way, that means you need to clean the data as well and make it normalized, because we generally say garbage in, garbage out. If the data is not right, can't help much. So then they will have to go with all the standardization which we do in the data warehousing. That means we'll have to get the data into landing zone layer, process it, transform it, and then get it ready for the transform after doing transformation for consumption layer for business, and then let business pull it. So that is what you'll have to structure it, then understand if that is not structured, then identify gap of the data, fill in and process the data again, and then put it in the model.
Okay. So next question, general question, descriptive versus inferential statistics, and what is the difference? If you can give some example in the answer.
Well, descriptive statistics and then inferential statistics are those 2 branches which come during the phase of diagnostic analytics technique as part of the data analytics techniques. So during this phase, as part of the descriptive statistics, you try to understand what is this data trying to describe us. And usually the method to measure those are mean, median, mode, and then standard deviation, as well as the variance. So it will tell you how my data is spread. Is it statistically having a high variant data, or the variance is less, followed by what is that which the data is trying to tell me. Now you might get some understanding, okay, and in order to validate that understanding, you will use inferential statistics. Say, let me give an example here. You are into industry is into biscuit manufacturing, okay, and the expectation is each biscuit should weigh 5 grams. Okay, so that becomes your inferential. You want to understand and cross check whether your inferences is right or wrong. So as part of that, what you will do, you will take one of the hypothesis testing. So, and then what you decide as part of null hypothesis, you say that okay, my each biscuit weighs 5 grams, and as part of alternate hypothesis, you say it is not equivalent to 5 grams, and you randomly pick the biscuits manufactured on a certain day, and you see what is the weight. Obviously, most of the biscuits will not be weighing 5 grams. Okay, and then you will find out what is the deviation. So if the deviation is plus or minus 5%, okay, then you'll say okay, this is accepted. Anything beyond plus or minus 5%, you will say that okay, my alternate hypothesis is right. My weighing the biscuits which are being manufactured are not equivalent to 5 grams, and because of this we are incurring a certain percentage of losses. So then you will go and revisit your machineries and take care where the correction has to be done.
Correct. So, in this section, I'm not able to include all the questions because that will be too long. Okay, so we have just picked a few representative questions. So, this was one. Next question is about A B testing. What is it and how is it used?
Okay. So A/B testing is more from once we put the hypothesis about, suppose taking example, if I think that a particular button, if a subscribe button should be in green color compared to blue color, the sign up will be more. So that is kind of hypothesis I've taken. Now, based on that hypothesis, I will create my own KPIs, and then I will go with the select set of users. One set of user will be under A, another set of user will be under B, and then we will give the set of like this web page, and those set of users will have to try to observe that how this testing outcome is coming out. So is that with green, are we signing the sign up is increasing or no? So based on that, we understand whether our hypothesis, whatever we had made, is correct or negative, positive or negative, and then accordingly it comes out. So it's more for identifying, making hypothesis and checking whether it is correct or wrong.
So you can have more quantified result in
Correct.
that, and you can take a call.
Yeah, correct. And that need to be for certain period of time, and good set of number of users should be there to do this analysis and testing. Yeah.
Okay, so next question about outliers. What are outliers and how do you identify them?
So outliers are important aspect when it comes as part of the data analysis. So outliers, I can say in simple words, are the extreme values. It can be an extreme high value or an extreme low value. Okay, and coming to the question that how what causes outliers, there are multiple reasons for that. One is it can be an issue at the application level. There can be certain errors because of which incorrect values are being captured, or it can be issue at the way the data is getting processed. One decimal point here and there can increase or quantify the numbers to a large extent. And then the other reasons can be human error. The person who is keying in the value might have keyed it incorrectly. And then the last one is a deliberate outlier. Sometimes we inject deliberate outliers in the system just to cross check if our system is robust enough to catch these outliers. And the common method to measure the outlier is using IQR, interquartile range, or box plot. So wherein all the data is being split into 4 quartiles, and based upon the first quartile, any values less than the quartile 1 is being deemed as a outliers, and any values which is greater than the higher quartile is also deemed as an extreme value or an outlier. But then how do we manage with outliers? Do we straight away remove it or should we consider it? So my take is don't straight away remove it. That will be a great mistake, and it can impact in certain ways. Say for example, your outliers can impact your standard deviation and mean, but it may not impact your mode and median values. And then you need to check with the business that we have got this outlier. Is this the valid one or not? From the business perspective, who knows, it might be a valid outlier, and it has to be considered as part of my machine learning models or as part of my statistical reports. So yes, outliers are an important aspect. There should be a well set process or well set standard way of dealing with the outliers, and this is something which a data analyst should never take a call on his behalf. He should have a good interaction with the business, and it should be always a business backed decision behind outliers.
Right, right. That's an important point because it's not necessary that every case the outliers are useless data.
Yeah, that's true. Because sometimes, like taking example, we are seeing like for VIPs, uh, uh, for a particular dashboard or for a particular action, it might take for 7 days. But for celebrities or VIPs, it might take only 1 days for processing of certain request. So that can be one of the outlier, but you can't straight away reject it because that is one of the valuable information which we can later categorize it under VIP scenario. So yeah, as Vinayak said, that we cannot take ourselves as a data analyst. We cannot take call ourselves. We'll have to get confirmation from business. Once they give confirm us yes, whether we should remove it or no, accordingly we should take call.
So, in your when we are describing the process, right, you mentioned about missing data. And so, how do you kind of identify missing data, and how do you correct it?
Okay. So missing data is again like there are we will have certain rows and columns, right? So if a certain columns for a particular important data it is missing, that means it is not available. And if that is the case, there are couple of steps where we can you can fix the way you can fix it. One, straight away ignore that. That is the least priority we should keep it, because again, as Vinayak had mentioned, we cannot take call ourselves on this type of missing data as well. We'll have to take blessings from our business. Second is impute. So if you can impute the data based on so that based on whatever average or median you are getting, you can impute those particular information values into those missing rows. But again, that call also we ourselves can't take. We'll have to get the confirmation from business. So these are two of the options which we can have to fix the missing values.
I would like to add another aspect, another technique of doing the data imputation. In fact, yes, missing values can be deliberate. Sometimes the user they themselves don't want to mention the information. It can be with respect to the gender, or it can be with respect to the age or the salary. So what happens here is in a data set, say a couple of people have not mentioned their age and they have mentioned their salary, and couple of the people have not mentioned their have mentioned their salary and not the age. So there is a another technique which is being currently used. It's called as data imputation using regression method. So what you will do here is you will use the age to fill in to create a machine learning model which will try to predict what is the probable salary. Okay, so once you have all the salary related information, you will then take the salary column and try to predict what can be the probable age of the person. So with that you have a fundamental backed data imputation technique.
Okay. Okay. So, coming to the next question, how do you approach designing a data model for a particular business domain or segment? How do you approach that?
So before jumping into the data modeling, first and foremost thing is we have to uh, try to understand what is that which business is looking for. Are they trying, what KPIs they are looking for, and what type of reports they are asking for, and then start with the conceptual level. Don't straight away jump into the physical level of the database. Try to understand if you have all the data available, and then see for a particular business requirement. Try to identify which is your fact table and which is your dimensional table. How do you establish the relationship? Usually, in most cases, we go uh, with a star diagram, with a
Star
star
schema.
schema. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for correcting, with the star schema, because uh, star schema is something which will help you to get the data in a faster method compared to the other schemas. And once if you have established the data model, make sure that what aspects of each fact table you have to create the dimensional models. For example, if it is a transaction, then you need to have a dimensional model with regard to the dates, and then and then you have to also consider the product dimensional table. You have to consider the supplier dimensional table. Okay, and also the territory wise also. If the business says that I want the reports into as a in terms of territory wise, then you need to consider those dimensional tables also. So that's the basic, or fundamental blueprint which I follow whenever I'm doing the data modeling aspect.
Okay. So, since you mentioned star schema, So the next question is star schema versus snowflake schema. What is the difference, and when do you use each other?
So fundamentally, both are based upon the dimensional and the fact table. The only difference is in star schema, you have only the basic normalized dimensional table. I mean, I would like to say the dimensional table are not yet normalized. Because of that, the size of the dimension tables is very high, and this reduces the data size, but it improves the speed. On the other hand, the Snowflake schema, it has a normalized dimensional tables wherein each dimensional table has another dimensional tables related to one another. For example, the product is a dimensional table. It can have further related dimensional tables saying product categories, subcategories, or product groups. So obviously, the data size will be reduced here, but since the pipelines or the application has to refer multiple tables, it will lead to a slight increase in the time consumption.
Okay. So now we move to the next section where we have more behavioral and scenario based questions. So the first question. So initial in the introduction, you were talking about the exciting thing about data analytics is cut through the chaos in data. So let's say you have a very complex data set and you have to present it to non-tech or the executive management. So how do you approach that? How do you simplify the complexity in the data?
Okay. So with this particular question, like it's more of like getting into storyline. So instead of talking too much into technical about the table level, generally if I because our business for them tables and all these backend is a black box. They don't understand all the table level jargons. So that is where I'll have to convert them particular like instead of talking about the table, I'll be talking about the data that is coming from where. So if a particular table is coming from a front end, that is well what I will first identify what is the problem you are talking about. That with that problem, I'll try to mention that this is where we are getting um, the problem on. I'll not talk much about backend. I'll only talk about front end or the data perspective. And from that perspective, I will keep them informed that this is what we are doing. We are doing in the sense we are fixing this particular issue and it will take this much time. And with that, you might be getting the information by this particular time. I will not come to the details of this table. I will be doing keeping it, deleting this table or adding this table or increasing primary key. All those things I'm not going to talk about to them, only about the functional part of it and only from front end part of it. Also one more thing which I generally do is I share with them the extract. So whenever we get the some problem from business, first thing what we do is we first extract the data and identify the problem and then share it with them that this is what is the fix. Do you think it's looking fine? With that, they are only seeing data. They are not hearing about tables and all. And with that, once they confirm that yes, this looks good for me, this particular data sets and the value are correct for particular field, then I will go back and fix that and will give them the timeline that this is what the timeline will get the fix by this particular time. So that is somewhere like I'll have to create the storyline as what was the root cause, what is the data fix we have done, what is the extract. If you give blessing for this particular extract, we will go ahead and deploy this. Not too much into technical, but yeah, those are the things we'll communicate to them.
Okay. So a related question would be, so she was talking about the complexity of the data model or data related aspects. But let's say if you have done the analysis, now you're coming up with the insights, okay, which you feel business should understand. So now there also a lot depends on how you tell it to the business as to so that they can take a decision. So what kind of can you tell about a scenario where you did this and how did it help?
Yeah, multiple times we come across the contradictory results. Then, based upon our findings, then what is business is expecting. So, in during that process, what matters is your diplomacy, and then the knowledge of the solution what you have created. Okay, and then you talk to the business. You try to understand what is that they're looking for, and what is that I have missed while building the application. So try to do the gap analysis first thing, and then explain them that if we have considered all these criterias, in spite of that, we have some interesting insights, and that can be quite contradictory to what you were expecting. And then explain them what is the reason. Okay, it can be like there can be certain aspects which the business stakeholders may not have considered, or which they have considered but you have not considered as part of your data solution. And then come up with a better answers for that, or come take another chance, come up with a next set of solution, and make sure that you are attacking the situation and not the person.
Okay. Another related question. You mentioned storytelling. So storytelling also requires you to kind of create some charts or some visualizations. Okay. So how do you kind of finalize? One is based on the data which you want to represent. Other one, is it also dependent on the stakeholders whom you're going to present?
It is dependent on them as well. So just to take an example, like we had request from business that they wanted to predict something like whether a particular deal is gonna win or lose on certain criteria. So with that, so from the storyline perspective, and then I will talk about from dashboarding perspective. So what we did was, to start with, we started putting the data, integrated it, and started getting the requirement that what all columns they want. They want the details of certain deals, what all, from which region it is, whether it is closed, in progress, or what's going on to that those deals, what programs are lined up with that, who all are the customers of those deals. So those all things which they wanted to see, we had created it to the dashboard. That was an immediate fix which we had given to them without the prediction. That was the first step we had given. After that, what we did was we had enabled the predictability. So enabled the model. It took more time than compared to what we put it into the dashboard. But then we started showing them the prediction. So that is where sometimes business don't understand what they want. They can't tell exactly what they want, but they tell that, okay, I want to understand if these customers gonna win or no, whether if we are giving some offer to them, whether they will win or no. So that is where we need to understand from our side, create insights for those particular deals, and then let them decide whether they want to show the prediction for those or no. So somewhere we'll have to be a middleman. I, as like a product manager, I'll have to be a middleman, understand the data from data analyst team, and then understand their problem from business problem, and then stitch it together, and then bring it in the dashboard format in front of them.
Okay, so the next question is, tell me, when you're doing data analysis, any scenario where your analysis led to a significant change in the business strategy or some business decisions?
Yes, there was this one interesting feature which we are trying to give to the customers, a new method of payment called as RFID, radio frequency identifiers. And it was initially targeted for the B2C customers. And during the pilot phase, by going through the pilot customer, we identified that this feature is mostly used by the fleet owners. Okay, and that's where we shifted all our business strategy from a B2C product to a B2B product, and came up with various other incentives as well as exciting offers for the B2B customers. So it went on to become a B2B specific product based upon the data what we got during the pilot phase. So that's one interesting feedback which we got when we were doing the data analysis as part of the pilot project.
Yeah, would you like to add?
Yeah, I would like to add my area as well, where I had worked in one of the project where we had to identify which are the laptop parts which are more prone to break. So that is where it was very interesting project which we had took, and it was like we collected all the photos which generally in the all the service center they keep all the screen area where its hinges are breaking, the power area where it gets stolen, and keyboards and other places. So we had kept all those images, and then we created metadata for those images, that to make sure that model learned about which particular images for which particular area. And this actually helped a lot in saving our revenue as well, because this reduced the repeat dispatch which was happening because of all the failures which was happening. And then the model which we had created was based on clustering, and then heat map was created, which showed that these are the areas in the LCD which is prone to fail. And this particular learning had been sent to our manufacturing team, and where they had improved the models as well. It helped a lot in revenue saving on repeat dispatch, and it was a big win for us. So that was, I definitely wanted to bring it up here.
So, answering these questions obviously requires some kind of a preparation, right? You know, think about such scenarios and prepare for it, right? Otherwise, it will be difficult to answer in the interview right away.
Yes, correct. That's true.
You should have done your homework properly. Okay, and then one should have practiced it a lot, and the ability to foresee the question is the main key here. Only then it will help you to identify where the gap is and stress upon the improvement required.
So now that brings us to the next segment, which is scenario-based questions. Okay, so I'll put up a scenario, and then you have to tell us how to answer this question. So imagine you're asked to investigate why user engagement on a mobile app has dropped by 10% in the last month. What would be your first steps, and what metrics would you investigate, and what are some potential hypotheses which you'll apply?
Okay. I'll take an analogy here. So, taking analogy of detective. So, how detective works. So, first of all, he'll go and check when it had happened. What was the timeline? When is it something a seasonal activity which happens? Like suppose in other than holiday timing, because holiday timing the sales will peak and mobile engagement might peak, but again it drops. So you need to understand the season of it, like whether this is happening seasonality is there or it's one time. Second, is it gradual or is it all of sudden drop has happened? So that is where you understand the time of how it has happened, 10%, how this drop has happened. Second, I will check who has got dropped. That means which user segment. Whether those are new users who came and then didn't like the app and then went off, or these are repeated customers who had been using the app and then didn't like something and dropped totally. Or some geography wise, is that some region related users who are not liking it. So that is which will tell the user segmentation of why it is happening. Then I will ask that, okay, time is identified, users are identified. Now I will ask the culprits. So culprits in the sense, suspected culprits. So that means what might have went wrong. That means like if I take, is there any upgrade had happened because of that the issue came in the app, or is there a performance issue because of which the users were not able to be engaged with that particular app, or is there any change which is region specific change which might hurt sentiments of might had hurt sentiment of users, and that's why they, so that will tell you like if there are performance issue, or is there upgrade issue, or is there any regional sentiment thing. So that will identify the why part of it. And also I will ask the users, like the witness, I will say, from detective world, I'm talking about. End users, I will try to gather few of the end users and try to understand why this is dropping off. So these are the few steps which I'll take if the app engagement gets reduced, and we'll try to do analysis like cohort analysis, funnel analysis to see if there is any fix we can do from that perspective and what is the root cause of it.
I would like to add one more interesting point here. So, in such cases, I just don't dive into the data first. I'll try to identify what is causing the issue, and I'll try to segmentize. Is this issue happening at the application wise, or is it happening at the from the business wise? And if it is happening at the application wise, I'll try to segregate. Is it happening at the web application, those customers who are using web, or is it happening at those customers who are using Android, or those customers who are using the iPhone application? Okay, Mac. Sorry, you can say it Mac, right?
Correct, true.
Yeah. So Mac, and in fact, it happened that all of a sudden the customers who were using Android app, their sales got drastically low. Okay, and uh, on doing the RCA, we found out that the recent app update had a flaw in giving the notification to the customers, and because customer missed those notification, they never turned to the store. So that's one more interesting case. No, there was nothing wrong in the process. There was nothing wrong in the data. All were doing fine, but then at the application level, that was the issue which we had to fix.
Yeah. So next question goes to you again. So let's say you're given a data set with customer transactions and demographics, and now you have to build the customer segmentation model. So how do you go about that?
Well, nowadays it's very generic to segment the customer based upon the gender, based upon the age, or the geographical location, or by their income. The latest, or I can say the most creative way to segmentize the customer is based upon their behavioral attitude. Okay, or the way they are, like, carrying out their lives. So this is something for which the data is not available, obviously because of the privacy regulations, GDPR compliances. So one of the way to get those data is by doing the survey. Okay, you send the survey questions to the customers, get their response, and all these survey questions has to be created by discussing with your business folks. And you can also use a little bit of AI here to segmentize the customers based on the output what they give. Okay, and then based upon the response for the question you from the customers, you sit and try to segmentize it and take their transactional behavior. Okay, and find out the similar transactional behavior of the remaining customers who have not responded the question or whom you have never contacted it, and then you segmentize those customers. So this is a creative way of segmentizing the customer using machine learning model. Okay, as well as using the survey responses which you have got directly from the customers, where the privacy and GDPR compliance is not a concern. And plus, you are also considering multiple factors while segmentizing the customers, and not just one factor like income, geography, or gender.
Right. So the next question is, you are given a data set of customer purchase history for an e-commerce company. The goal is to improve the customer retention. So what kind of analysis would you perform, and what kind of insights will you look for?
I usually perform the cohort analysis. That means I'll take this information or the set of data of all the customers who have done their first transaction, and then find out at what point of time the churn rate is increasing. Okay, is it like, find out those customers that, who don't do the second transactions, say within a span of 20 days. Okay, then the churn rate is increasing. Find out such customers and give them a very exciting offers, say on 15th day or 16th day, and then, try to retain it. So that's one way to overcome the issue of customer churn and retain the existing customers.
Okay, so the next question is, a client asks you to build a dashboard to track the performance of this website. So, what are the few key KPIs which would you include in that analysis, and how would you approach the design to make it easy for the business users to use?
Yeah. Sure. So, from usability perspective, when I make website, so I ensure that the user friend, its UI UX should be very appealing and very welcoming for users. So, and then there are a set of KPIs that we generally use to track whether this is looking good or that need some improvement. Are to identify how many users are daily users, daily active users, how many are daily monthly active users. We call it as DAU and MAU. And like, how what is the conversion rate? Like that means how many users are coming and scrolling through website and purchasing the items from you. How many are abandonment users who are putting things in cart and then going off? So similarly, what is the traffic? How much users are coming and how browsing through the sites as well, which tells you at least people are coming and going through the website. So these are few KPIs which I would like to see, and how many hits per day that is happening, on which region wise these hits are coming, which particular region is more welcoming, and which ones are need to do further more advertisement. So those are few KPIs which generally I go for from website perspective.
Okay.
I would like to add an interesting point here. So most of us know which is the leading coffee brand here. Can you tell me which is the leading coffee brand
Cafe Coffee Day or Costco.
in the world?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, yes. Okay, but then Shell sells more coffee cups than Starbucks
At their petrol stations?
at that petrol station, which nobody is aware. This is one of the important KPIs. We call it as NFRs, non-fuel sales. So yes, so it depends from industry to industry, from company to company. What is that they are trying to find the values for? Another interesting fact I would like to add here. So what do you think? I mean, like uh, the source of the Indian Railways. What do you think? One third of the income is generated from?
Freight.
No, it's not freight. Freight adds only 10% of the income.
Okay.
It's the catering services.
Okay.
Oh,
So, so when you're sitting and trying to figure out the KPIs, these are some of the interesting facts which you will get to know when you're talking to the business.
Yeah, and this is what data talks about, which many people don't know, but these insights creates a lot of surprise many
surprise
times.
discoveries.
Yes, yes.
Good points, both of these. Okay, so next question again comes to data. So if you have limited data, then how do you still try and figure out something which is actionable or insightful for the stakeholders?
Yes. First of all, admit the shortfall, admit the risk that you have a limited data. Don't try to play around saying that we have a good amount of data. Accept the shortcomings, and then your approach should be quality over quantity. Try to get more analysis within the data what you have. Try to understand how each features are interrelated to one another. Is it positively correlated or negatively correlated? And then explain it to the business that with whatever business need you are asking, we are having limited data. Will it be good enough to get some data from external sources? Okay, and how that can be relevant here. That's one way to overcome the issue of data scarcity. Another way is by using generative AI. There is something science called as synthetic data. You can use a synthetic data model called as SMART. It stands for Synthetic Minority Oversampling Technique, wherein you will give whatever limited data which you have, and the generative AI will generate vast number of the data from that limited source of data, considering various statistical properties. So it's as though as your smaller data has gone into the bigger data without deviating much from your source data.
I would like to add one thing here. So similarly, the question which you had, like limited data. Similarly, I had experienced in one of my project where I was working in supply chain. At that time, the suppliers' data was very limited, and within our organization the data was very less. So then, as Vinayak said, that we need to reach out to external customers, external suppliers. So I reached out to multiple external suppliers to get the data. The problem was the we were getting the data, but it was all unstructured, all in different format. So that is where, and that too, like it was not within our control because it was not organizational data, it was outside data. So that is where, like I, from a product management perspective, I ensured that we fix the template and we mentioned that, okay, we need this data and on regular basis from different regions, and which helped to give some unbiased data, because if we get the limited one, it would generally remains for a particular region and for particular. So once you reach out to external vendors, understand, give them template, get those data, you will have more unbiased data which you can perform and showcase the better result. But yeah, definitely with limited data, whatever we can do, that is what we'll have to start with, and then slowly integrate furthermore all the level of data.
So you mentioned, just a follow-up question. You mentioned synthetic data. So how reliable, how you can generate synthetic data which is more reliable? Let me put it this way.
So it all depends upon the limited data what you have. Make sure that your limited data has a lot of variance within it, okay, and it is free from bias, and it is free from any of the data anomalies. Okay, that itself acts as a sowing seed aspect for the larger set of data generated by synthetic. And the generation of synthetic data is very simple. There is a module within synthetic data called as mod. You have to import that particular module, add the expected outcomes, what you're looking for, how much variance you have. So these are to some extent the hyperparameter tuning which you have to do. And then once you have the data, don't straight away use that data with a closed eye. Have a discussion with the stakeholder also. Do a proper descriptive analysis. Okay, do a proper inferential analysis of also of the data, and then once you find that the data is good enough, and instead of being in a state of having nothing and coming to a state of something is better than nothing, so it's always better to it's a wise decision to go and opt for the synthetic data. In fact, there are certain situations like some of the applications or products might be in the initial stage, okay, and you want to test it out. For that, there is no data available, and most of the organizations are now using these synthetic data.
So the last question is, how do you balance short-term business goals with the long-term strategic goals? Because many a times, short-term business goals, the enthusiasm to get quick results, they could actually distract you from the long-term business goals.
Correct. So very valid question, and that is what where we'll have to balance the long term and short term. Because short term is one where you have the business, run the business thing, where you'll have to get the business going so that their work don't get hampered. And similarly, you'll always have to think through for the long term, and you need to prepare for that. So when from short term perspective, taking example like as I was mentioning about the model which we had created. First of all, we created the short term where we didn't had prediction. Whatever data was available, we had shown it into the dashboard so that at least business can see the dashboard and come back with the fixes and continue their business and run the business thing they can continue. From long term perspective, we continued getting more data because this model creation is not a short term thing you can do. This because the 70% of the time it takes for data cleansing, data readiness. And that is where we can't keep business also held up with that. But we'll always have to think through whenever we are creating the short term solution that the solution should be scalable enough so that we can go for the long term in future. So that is where what we did was we created the dashboard, shown it to them that this is what we are having the data as, and they with that they were able to continue and automate the process whatever they wanted. Along with that, we created the model, and model took good amount of time. So that is where we had cleansed the data and then created model and improved the accuracy because accuracy is one of the thing. And then biasness should not be there, so that require more and more integration of the data. So that we continued and then created the prediction and shown them prediction, the win and loss, those things. So that way at least they were able to continue with whatever they had requested as a short term, and we created model for with prediction as a long term delivery.
I would like to add a couple of points here. So first of all, it has to be a shift in your attitude. It's not like, either short term or long term. It has to be both short term and long term. And then you can use a tool called as efforts to results ratio. Okay, if something takes less efforts and it is having a good impact with respect to the results, then you can quickly prioritize it, complete it out. And if something is consuming high efforts but it is having very low impact, then better try to avoid it. So this is something which I use it as part of my work.
Okay. So now we have finished all the three sections. Okay. So the next question is one piece of advice. So anyone, whether new to data analysis or experienced, if they are going to face an interview, what advice would you give them?
Okay. So if he is new to data analytics, I don't recommend to straight away go and attend the interviews. Okay, have some stuff to mention in your data in your resume, stating that you have worked upon certain analytical projects, and it will not be at the organization level. It can be as small as at an NGO level, or as small and challenging at a hackathon. Okay, because your experience is the data here, which will speak for yourself. Okay, and then present the way you present the data in a more compelling and storytelling manner. You have to use the same technique when you're presenting your experience. What is that something which you learned? What is what was that challenging for you? I basically consider it as a star technique. What was the situation? What was the task which was required to do? What action you did it, and what was the result? So that's one thing. Second thing is, don't be too much technical while explaining your contribution during the project, saying that I built a pipeline which processed 10,000 of records without any anomalies within a span of 15 minutes. Rather than mention what business value it carried, saying that I was able to process a billion of records over a night before the sales team was ready next day morning, so that they have the real time data in handy and they were able to make quick decisions with respect to sales by reducing the marketing expenses by 5% and increasing the sales turnover by 8%, leading to an overall increase to an extent of 12%, something like that.
Yeah, just to add on here, so one thing I would definitely mention to people who are trying to get into interview, first understand whether this is the domain you want to get into. This is the data. Do you thrive with the data? Because that is where it will be every time. 100% of your job will be into digging in the data and getting, that's what I was saying, chaos to make sense out of it. If that is the space which you really get high on, do it. And then that is what which Vinayak mentioned, that we need to ensure that don't go directly without saying no, I haven't done anything. Instead, small project like college level projects, even NGOs, these things you can showcase from data perspective. These days we are getting so many sites are there where you can get data available to explore, like Kaggle and all. So you can download that, have those data, work like mess up with that, get comfortable with the data, and then you will make something out of it. So, and no need to have hi-fi tools and all. You can start from Excel and Power BI itself. Those are very good tools which you can start with, and then get into AIs and all. But first thing, get into data analysis, basic ones using Excel, and then get the AI tools. So I'll say don't directly jump into AI. First understand the data.
So basically, what both of you are saying is that just theoretical knowledge is not going to help you, right? You have to kind of put your hands down and do something, right? Okay, great.
The difference between knowing swimming and doing swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely correct.
So that's
Good pieces of advice. Okay, so now if after listening to this, there'll be more questions, I know. So, where do people connect with you? Start.
So, yeah, I would love to connect with everyone. I am there in LinkedIn and active there in LinkedIn, so they can reach out to me, message me, and I'll be there. Would love to hear from them what they think, what's their problem. Definitely love to guide them.
Great.
Yeah, so I believe two things which increases by sharing is happiness and knowledge. So I'm eagerly, I look forward to whatever the knowledge in the form of questions or knowledge in the form of corrections which exists in your mind. And yes, I am approachable in LinkedIn. You can find me as Vinayak MK. You can just send me the invite. I can very happy to accept it, and then we can connect via LinkedIn and discuss what problems or what questions you have and how it can be addressed. Plus, I will be taking some of the webinars at the Tech Canvas, and there also you can reach out to me by registering for those webinars.
So, anyway, we'll put up the LinkedIn URLs for both of you.
Yes, that will be helpful.
So, thank you so much. I appreciate the effort which you have taken because I put you on difficult hot seat. You have been more used to taking interviews rather than being interviewed. So, thank you so much. You were very good, and I am sure you must have learned a lot of ways in how to answer questions which are scenario based, behavioral, or conceptual. So, hope this episode was useful to you. Thanks for watching this. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.